The digital clock glared 2:17 a.m. Lila squeezed her eyes shut, but sleep wouldn't come. It hadn't come easily for weeks, not since Leo, her baby brother, had arrived. Everything revolved around Leo now: feedings, diaper changes, burping, and endless gentle rocking. Lila understood, of course. She loved Leo. He was small and sweet-smelling, with tiny fists that gripped her finger. But sometimes, just sometimes, she wished things were like before. She tried everything to fall asleep. Counting sheep had morphed into a frantic tally of fluffy bodies jumping a fence, each one more irritating than the last. Reading her favorite book, The Adventures of Captain Calico, only made her restless. Even warm milk hadn't helped. She tossed and turned, her blankets a tangled mess. It felt like everyone else was sleeping soundly, leaving her adrift in a sea of quiet darkness. "He's such a good boy," her mom had whispered to her dad earlier, while Leo slept peacefully in his bassinet. "Remember the lullabies we used to sing to Lila? Hush, little darling, don't you cry." Oh, those were the days. Lila's heart gave a little squeeze. She remembered those days too. The warm feeling of being held close, the soft melody of her mother's voice, the way her dad would hum along slightly off-key. Now those lullabies felt distant, lost in the whirlwind of babyhood. She hugged Barnaby, her stuffed bear, tighter. Barnaby was old and worn, his fur matted in places, but his button eyes always seemed to offer a silent kind of comfort. "It's not fair, Barnaby," she mumbled into his soft fur. "They used to sing to me. Now it's all Leo all the time." Barnaby, of course, didn't answer. He was a very good listener, but he couldn't magically bring back forgotten songs or make the quiet less lonely. Suddenly, a tiny whirring sound broke the silence. Lila blinked, peering through the darkness. A hummingbird hovered outside her window, its wings a blur of motion. It wasn't unusual to see hummingbirds in their garden, but this one seemed to be looking at her. It tilted its head, then darted forward, tapping lightly on the glass before flitting away towards the woods behind their house. Felt like an invitation, a tiny, shimmering beckoning into the unknown. Lila sat up in bed, a strange feeling bubbling inside her. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't quite as forgotten as she thought. Hesitantly, Lila slipped out of bed and followed the direction the hummingbird had taken. The back door creaked open with a long, complaining sigh, and she found herself standing at the edge of the woods. A thick mist clung to the trees, swirling around their trunks like ghostly ribbons. It wasn't the playful mist of a morning dew. This felt different, ancient. The air hummed with a quiet energy, a subtle vibration that tickled her skin. As she stepped beneath the canopy, the woods seemed to swallow the last of the moonlight. The trees grew closer together, their branches intertwining to form a shadowy ceiling. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig underfoot, echoed strangely, as if the forest was listening back. And then she heard it, a faint, wavering melody. It was a lullaby, but not one she recognized. It seemed to drift on the mist, a fragile echo of a forgotten tune. As she walked deeper, more melodies joined the first, layering upon each other in a chorus of whispered songs. They were all different, yet all shared a similar quality, a bittersweet longing, a sense of being lost and yearning to be found. "This is," Lila breathed, her voice barely a whisper, "the forest of forgotten lullabies?" The mist ahead of her parted, revealing a small clearing. In the center stood a figure, tall and slender, shimmering with a soft ethereal glow. It wasn't quite solid, more like a memory-given form. The figure wore long, flowing robes the color of twilight, and their face, though kind, held the weight of ages. "Welcome, Lila," the figure said, their voice like the chime of distant bells. "I am the keeper of lullabies." Lila stared, her heart pounding. You know my name?" The keeper smiled gently. "I know all the names of those who remember, and those whose lullabies are fading. This forest holds the songs that the world has forgotten. Each melody, a piece of someone's heart, a moment of love and comfort." The keeper gestured around the clearing. Lila followed their gaze and gasped. Woven between the trees, shimmering like strands of moonlight, were countless threads of light. They pulsed with a soft glow, some bright and strong, others flickering and dim. "What are those?" she asked, awestruck. "Those are the memory threads," the keeper explained. Each thread represents a lullaby. The brighter the thread, the stronger the memory, the more the song is remembered and sung. But as time passes, memories fade. The threads grow thin, and the lullabies begin to unravel. The keeper's voice held a note of sorrow, and when a lullaby is completely forgotten, it ceases to exist. The thread vanishes, and a piece of the world's warmth is lost forever. "To earn a lullaby, child," the keeper said, their voice echoing softly in the clearing, "you must pass 3 challenges. Each will test a part of you, a part needed to truly understand and cherish the power of a song. The first is the challenge of silence." Lila's brow furrowed. "Silence? What do I have to do?" The keeper gestured towards a path leading deeper into the forest. Beyond those trees lies a grove where the lullabies are most fragile. Every sound, even a whisper, threatens to shatter them. You must enter the grove and remain perfectly still and silent. It sounds simple, but the forest has a way of testing those who seek its gifts. Taking a deep breath, Lila started down the path. The trees soon closed in around her, and the air grew heavy with anticipation. The forest seemed to hold its breath along with her. As she stepped into the grove, she immediately noticed the difference. The lullabies here weren't just faint echoes. They were like delicate glass ornaments, shimmering and almost breakable. Suddenly, a giggle erupted from behind a nearby bush. A tiny winged creature with iridescent skin peeked out, its eyes sparkling with mischief. "Pust! Hey kid! Try not to blink, it's so boring being quiet." Lila bit her lip, resisting the urge to smile. It was a sprite, one of the tiny playful beings her grandmother used to tell stories about. I can't talk," she whispered, even that feeling like a transgression. "Oh, come on," another sprite chimed in, flitting around her head. "Just one little giggle? We're dying of boredom over here. I bet you can't even hold in a sneeze." They began tickling her with tiny shimmering wings. Lila squeezed her eyes shut, her body trembling with suppressed laughter. It was agonizing. She wanted to swat them away, to shout at them to stop, to just move. Her legs ached from standing still, her back protested the rigid posture, and her mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. What if Leo is hungry? What if mommy needs help? I wonder what's for dinner? It's not just about not making noise, child. The keeper's voice echoed in her mind, as if sensing her struggle. It's about quieting the noise within. The lullabies are fragile, yes, but so is the stillness of your heart. Lila focused on her breathing, trying to slow the frantic rhythm. She imagined each inhale drawing in calm, and each exhale releasing her anxieties. She pictured Leo, sleeping peacefully, and a warmth spread through her chest. I'm doing this for him, she thought. I need to be still, to be quiet, to help save these songs. The sprites continued their antics, trying to poke her, whisper silly jokes, and even mimic her parents' voices. But Lila held firm. She focused on a single point on a nearby tree, picturing the memory threads flowing through its branches. She imagined the lullabies as tiny bubbles, easily burst by a careless sound. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Her muscles screamed in protest, but she refused to yield. Slowly, the sprites began to lose interest, their giggles fading into disappointed murmurs. They flitted away, seeking amusement elsewhere, leaving Lila alone in the silent grove. Finally, a sense of peace washed over her. The internal chatter quieted, and she found a stillness she hadn't known she possessed. The lullabies around her seemed to glow brighter, resonating with a newfound clarity. She had faced the challenge, not by suppressing her feelings, but by acknowledging them and choosing to remain centered. Now, the keeper announced, their voice a gentle ripple in the air, comes the challenge of fear. The shadows hold many things, child, not malice but reflections. Reflections of worries that hide in the corners of your heart. The keeper led Lila to the mouth of a cave, an opening that seemed to swallow all light. A cold draft wafted out, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something unsettling. Inside, the keeper continued, you will find shadows given form. They are born of anxieties, of things that go bump in the night. To pass this challenge, you must not fight them but see them, understand what they represent, and find the light within yourself to dispel them. Lila hesitated. She wasn't afraid of much, usually, but the darkness, The darkness always felt like it held secrets, and not the good kind. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the cave. Immediately, the world around her dissolved into shades of gray. The air grew thick and heavy, and the silence was absolute. Then they began to appear, the shadows. At first, they were vague shapes, flitting at the edge of her vision. But as she ventured deeper, they solidified, taking on recognizable forms. A monstrous shape with glowing red eyes lumbered towards her, its claws outstretched. It was the monster from under her bed. The one she'd convinced herself wasn't real years ago. You can't be here," Lila stammered, backing away. The shadow creature tilted its head, and a distorted voice echoed in the cave. "But I am here. You used to be so afraid. Do you remember the nights you hid under the covers, trembling?" Lila squeezed her eyes shut. It was true. She had been terrified of the monster under her bed. But that was when she was little. "I'm not scared anymore," she declared, though her voice trembled. The monster chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. "Aren't you? Look closer." As she opened her eyes, the monster shifted, its form becoming less monstrous, more sad. She realized it wasn't trying to scare her. It was simply reflecting her old fear. It was a memory given shape. Further into the cave, other shadows materialized. A swirling vortex of darkness represented her fear of being lost. A shadowy figure with a stern face embodied her worry about disappointing her parents, and a looming darkness with sharp teeth was the fear of the unknown. Each one spoke to her, echoing her anxieties, reminding her of past worries. "They're not trying to hurt me," Lila realized, her voice gaining strength. "They're just my fears." She approached the vortex of darkness, and instead of running away, she spoke to it. "I'm scared of getting lost sometimes, but I know my way back. I have my family, and I have my own strength." As she spoke, the vortex began to dissipate, its swirling darkness fading into nothingness. She turned to the stern figure and said, "I want to make my parents proud, but I know they love me even when I make mistakes." The figure softened, its features becoming less harsh, and then it too vanished. Finally, she faced the looming darkness with sharp teeth. This one was the hardest. It represented everything she didn't know, everything that could go wrong. "I don't know what the future holds," she admitted, "but I'm brave enough to face it. I'm brave enough to try." As she spoke, a single ray of light pierced through the darkness, illuminating a small, glowing flower growing in a crevice in the cave wall. It radiated a warm golden light, and its petals seemed to pulse with energy. The keeper's voice echoed through the cave. "You have faced your fears, child, and found the courage within. The flower of self-assurance is yours." Lila carefully plucked the flower, its petals cool and smooth to the touch. As she held it, the shadows around her began to recede, shrinking back into the darkness. The cave no longer felt menacing but peaceful, almost serene. She had not defeated the shadows, but she had understood them, and in doing so, she had found the light to dispel them. The keeper led Lila out of the cave and into a clearing bathed in a soft, melancholic light. In the center stood a magnificent weeping willow, its branches cascading down like a curtain of green tears. But these weren't water droplets clinging to the leaves. They were shimmering, pearlescent teardrops, each one pulsing with a faint inner light. "This is the grove of grief," the keeper said, their voice hushed with reverence. "The willow collects the sorrow of all who have ever lost something precious. A memory, a loved one, a dream. Each teardrop holds a piece of that sadness." Lila cautiously approached the tree. The air around it felt heavy, almost suffocating. She reached out and touched a falling teardrop, and a wave of sadness washed over her, so intense it made her stumble back. It wasn't her sadness, not exactly, but a profound sense of loss that resonated deep within her. What is this feeling?" she whispered, clutching the glowing flower she'd earned in the previous challenge. "It is the weight of sorrow, child," the keeper replied. "A feeling you may not fully understand yet. It is easy to be frustrated when you feel overlooked. But have you considered the sadness of those who yearn for a moment they can never reclaim?" Lila frowned. She hadn't. She'd been too caught up in her own feelings to think about anyone else's. I don't know what you mean." "Look closely at the teardrops," the keeper urged. "Each one tells a story." Lila focused on the falling tears. As she watched, images flickered within them. A mother gently rocking a baby, a father teaching his child to ride a bike, a child drawing a picture for their parents. But the images were overlaid with a sense of longing, of emptiness. "I see parents missing their children," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "And children missing their parents," the keeper added. "Loss takes many forms, child. Sometimes it's a physical absence, sometimes it's a fading memory. The willow weeps for all of it." Lila felt a pang of guilt. She'd been upset about feeling left out, but these were real sorrows, ancient and profound. She tried to imagine what it would be like to never see her parents again, to have their laughter and warmth disappear from her life. The thought was unbearable. "What am I supposed to do?" she asked, her voice trembling. "How can I help?" "The willow needs comfort," the keeper said. "It needs a thought of hope, a memory of joy to balance the sorrow. Offer it something beautiful, something that reminds it of the love that still exists in the world." Lila closed her eyes, searching her memory for something, anything, that could bring a little light to this place of sadness. She thought about her frustrations, her sleepless nights, her feeling of being forgotten. But those thoughts felt small and selfish compared to the weight of the willow's grief. Then a different memory surfaced. She remembered a sunny afternoon, building a magnificent fort in the living room with her mom and dad. They draped blankets over furniture, filled it with pillows and stuffed animals, and spent hours telling stories and laughing. It was a perfect day, filled with warmth and love. A small smile touched her lips. She opened her eyes and looked at the weeping willow. "I remember," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I remember building a fort with my mom and dad. We laughed so much, and it felt like we were the only people in the world. It was a really happy day." As she spoke, a soft glow emanated from the willow's branches. The falling teardrops seemed to shimmer with a newfound brightness, and the heavy feeling in the air began to lift. The tree's weeping slowed, becoming more of a gentle sigh. The keeper smiled. "You have offered a gift of remembrance, child. You have reminded the willow that even in the midst of sorrow, joy still exists. You have passed the challenge of sorrow." The keeper, their form shimmering like heat haze, gestured towards a swirling vortex of light. From within it, a melody began to emerge, faint, fragile, like the chime of distant bells. It was a lullaby, achingly beautiful yet broken. Notes fractured and disappeared, leaving gaps of silence that felt vast and empty. "This," the keeper said, their voice soft as falling snow, "is what remains of Hush, Little Starling." It was a favorite amongst mothers for centuries, sung to soothe babes and chase away shadows. But time and forgetfulness are relentless. Its fading child drifting towards silence. The keeper reached out and carefully drew the melody into a crystalline sphere, offering it to Lila. The lullaby swirled within, its fragmented notes illuminating her face with an ethereal glow. Lila reached out and touched the sphere, and the melody flowed into her mind. It was lovely, full of gentle promises and comforting images. A silver moon, a whispering breeze, a mother's loving gaze. But it was incomplete, like a puzzle with missing pieces. She tried to hum it, to fill in the gaps, but the notes wouldn't come. Each attempt felt forced, unnatural. The melody sounded hollow, devoid of the warmth and emotion it once held. She stumbled over the phrases, the rhythm felt off, and the beauty seemed to slip through her fingers like sand. It's not right," Lila said, frustration creeping into her voice. "I can't make it whole." The keeper simply smiled. "You are trying to take a lullaby, child, not create one. These fragments are merely echoes, whispers of what once was. They need a vessel, a heart to breathe new life into them." Lila frowned. "But I don't know any lullabies. My mom and dad used to sing to me, but I can't remember them. And I definitely don't know how to make one." "You know more than you think," the keeper said gently. "A lullaby isn't just a melody, it is a feeling. It's the love you hold in your heart, the hopes you have for the future, the memories you cherish. It's the comfort you wish to give." Lila looked down at her hands, feeling lost and confused. "But what do I do? How do I turn feelings into a song?" "Think of your little brother, Leo," the keeper suggested. "Think of the joy he brings, the love you feel for him, even amidst your adjustments. Think of the forest, of the challenges you've overcome. the silence you mastered, the fears you faced, the sorrow you comforted. They all hold a piece of a lullaby waiting to be sung. Lila closed her eyes, trying to focus. She pictured Leo, his tiny hands grasping hers, his sleepy smile. She remembered the quiet stillness of the grove, the courage she found within the dark cave, the warmth that bloomed in her chest as she comforted the weeping willow. But it still felt distant, like she was looking at someone else's memories, not her own. I don't know if I can," she whispered, her voice filled with doubt. "It feels like I'm trying to catch smoke." The keeper placed a hand on Lila's shoulder. "The most beautiful lullabies are often born from struggle, child. Don't try to force it. Let the feelings flow. Let the memories guide you. And remember, a lullaby doesn't need to be perfect. Just needs to be sincere." Lila took a deep breath, clutching the crystalline sphere. The fragmented melody pulsed within, a silent challenge and a gentle invitation. She knew the keeper was right. She couldn't simply take a forgotten lullaby and make it her own. She had to create something new, something that came from her heart. And for the first time she felt a flicker of hope, a spark of inspiration. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could find her own song. The forest seemed to exhale as Lila stepped back into her own backyard, the mist clinging to her clothes like a forgotten dream. The swing set stood silent, the familiar scent of cut grass a stark contrast to the earthy aroma of the woods. Everything looked the same, yet she felt different. Lighter somehow, braver. Clutching the crystalline sphere containing the fragmented lullaby, she crept back into the house. Leo was still asleep, a tiny rosebud of a human, nestled in his crib. Her parents were in the kitchen, murmuring over dishes. She slipped into her room, the sphere warming her hands. Sitting on her bed, she closed her eyes, letting the broken melody wash over her. It was still incomplete, but now, instead of frustration, a gentle curiosity filled her. The keeper's words echoed in her mind. A lullaby is a feeling. She began to hum, tentatively at first, weaving in fragments of "Hush, Little Starling." But instead of trying to fix the melody, she let it drift, letting her own emotions shape it. She remembered the stillness of the challenge of silence, and the tune slowed, becoming soft and breathy, like a whispered secret. "Hush, little starling, don't you cry," she sang softly, then paused, adding a new line. "Close your eyes now, let the quiet fly." It wasn't perfect, but it felt right. Then she remembered the dark cave and the shadow creatures. She hadn't defeated them with a sword or a spell, but with courage, with the realization that they were just echoes of her own fears. The melody gained a subtle strength, a quiet determination. Though shadows dance and monsters creep, little starling, drift to sleep. A brave heart beats within your breast, and dreams will keep you safe and blessed. A smile touched her lips. It was starting to take shape. She thought of the weeping willow, the weight of sorrow, and the comfort she had offered with a simple memory. The tune softened again, becoming tender and full of love. And when the world feels big and gray, remember sunshine came today. Mama's kiss and Papa's hold. A story whispered, brave and bold. She continued to sing, weaving in memories of her own childhood. Her father reading bedtime stories, her mother tucking her in, the warmth of their love surrounding her. The fragmented lullaby became a tapestry, woven with threads of the forest, her fears, her joys, and her love for Leo. Unbeknownst to Lila, her mother had paused her dishwashing, drawn by the melody. Her father, too, had stopped his reading and stood silently in the doorway, listening. The song wasn't like anything they had heard before. It wasn't a traditional lullaby, but it was beautiful, raw, and deeply moving. It's lovely," her mother whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Her father nodded, unable to speak. He recognized the fragments of "Hush, Little Starling." But they were transformed, infused with a new life, a new meaning. It was a lullaby made of love, loss, and the enduring bond between a sister and her brother. Lila, lost in her creation, didn't notice their presence. She sang on, her voice growing stronger and more confident with each passing verse. Finally, as the last note faded, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known she was missing. She had created something beautiful, something uniquely her own. Taking a deep breath, Lila walked over to Leo's crib. He was still awake, his little eyes wide and unfocused, gazing up at the mobile above him. She gently smoothed a strand of hair from his forehead. He gurgled softly, a tiny sound that melted away the last vestiges of her earlier frustration. "Okay, Leo," she whispered, her heart brimming with a tenderness she hadn't fully understood before. "It's time for a new song." And then she began to sing. The lullaby flowed from her, no longer hesitant or fragmented, but complete and whole. It was a blend of the old and the new, a melody woven with courage, quiet moments, and an abundance of love. "Hush, little starling, don't you cry. Close your eyes now, let the quiet fly. Though shadows dance and monsters creep, little starling, drift to sleep. A brave heart beats within your breast, and dreams will keep you safe and blessed. And when the world feels big and gray, remember sunshine came today. Mama's kiss and Papa's hold, a story whispered, brave and bold." As she sang, a faint, shimmering light filled the room. Lila glanced towards the window and gasped. Hovering just outside, bathed in the soft glow of the moon, was the hummingbird. It didn't dart or flit as it had before, but remained perfectly still, its tiny wings beating a silent rhythm. It was as if it were listening, approving. Leo's breathing began to slow, his eyelids fluttering. His small hand, clenched into a fist moments before, relaxed and opened. A peaceful expression settled on his face. Lila continued to sing, her voice a gentle caress in the quiet room. Slowly, surely Leo drifted off to sleep. As the last note faded, the hummingbird dipped its head in a tiny bow, then vanished into the night. Lila felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling of completion and belonging. Her parents stood in the doorway, their faces etched with emotion. Her mother wiped away a tear, and her father gave her a small, proud smile. "That was extraordinary, Lila," her father said softly. "Truly extraordinary." "It was beautiful, sweetheart," her mother added, stepping forward to hug her. "You have a gift." Lila leaned into their embrace, feeling cherished and loved. It wasn't about being the only one anymore. It wasn't about being forgotten. Leo hadn't replaced her. He had simply added another layer to their family tapestry. And she, Lila, had found her own way to contribute, to create something beautiful and lasting. She glanced out the window, imagining the forest of forgotten lullabies. She didn't need to see it to know it was glowing, renewed by the melody she had brought back to life. She understood now that memories weren't fragile things meant to be locked away. They were living things, meant to be shared, reshaped, and celebrated. And sometimes the most beautiful lullabies were the ones we created ourselves.